18-year-old Eric Enham is suing his ex-girlfriend, 21-year-old Michelle Hamlin, for breaking a lease and an unpaid loan. Michelle says Eric abused her and her children.
Yeah, this is case number 184 on the calendar in the matter of Enham versus Hamlin.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
How old are you, Mr. Enham?
18.
And you?
21.
You have 2 children?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are they?
1 and 3. I mean 4.
And Mr. Enham is not the father of either of those children?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Enham.
Yes, ma'am.
According to the complaint that you filed in this case, you met the defendant and subsequently decided to lease a house with her. Both of you signed your names to the lease. She moved in, subsequently moved out with her 2 children. You want her responsible for her half of the rent for the duration of the lease.
Correct.
Ms. Hamlin says that you are a violent, vicious person, that you abused her and her children.
There's a lie, Your Honor.
Shh, just a minute. And she is counterclaiming. That's what the case is about. All right. When did you sign this lease?
January 18, 2005.
And when did she move out?
May 28th, 2005.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding her moving out.
She moved out in April.
Why did she move out? You don't know. Why did you move out?
I moved out because he was abusive to me and my children. He would hit my daughter, spank her when she would cry, give her bruises. He would hit my son when he would do something wrong. He just really abused me, and that's why I moved out. So...
I didn't ask you for any information,
yes,
sir. Are you still living in the house?
Correct, yes, ma'am.
Do you plan on staying in the house?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a new roommate?
No, ma'am.
Plan on getting one?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I don't want to go through the same thing again.
So you can afford the rent yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you get any child support for your children?
I do, Your Honor, but I do not receive it.
You mean there's an order for child support?
Yes, but I do not receive it.
Why not?
The dad's not working, and he's just not responsible.
Do you get any other assistance for your children?
Nope. Just me working, that's it.
Did the children visit your family?
Yes, they do.
You know her family, I assume. Are you related to her?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
How are you related to her?
I reside with Michelle together for 7 years, and I can testify of an harassment at Michelle's place of employment on one occasion.
What's your name?
My name is Jeffrey Bell, Your Honor.
Mr. Bell, do you remember the date of the alleged harassment?
It was shortly after Eric damaged...
Give me a month.
May 2005. Sorry about that.
And tell me what you observed in May of 2005.
I witnessed Eric and 2 young ladies at Michelle's restaurant. After they had their meal, I watched Eric have his arm around this young lady. I considered it taunting Michelle at work. After they were close to the door, the 2 young ladies started arguing with the hostess and manager, stating that poor service, they want the manager's telephone number. I got up from my seat. I approached Eric right at the door.
Now, Mr. Bell, don't talk to him.
Yes, ma'am. And I did walk up to him and told Eric that I'm sure that you have some things to work out with Michelle, but please be cool. I shook his hand like a gentleman, and the next thing we know, the car's being vandalized, and if I knew that those children were abused...
Just a second, Mr. Bell.
Yes, ma'am.
If you knew that the children were abused, what would you do?
I would have wrung his neck.
What about her?
I would have taken care of her, too.
What about her, Mr. Bell? She's the mother. I read...
I love her.
Just a second.
Yes,
you
ma'am.
may love her.
Yes, I do.
But I read her complaint, and I'm not so interested in this half rent that Mr. Enman wants her to pay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because right now he's living in the house, and if he wants to get a roommate, he can do it. He told me a moment ago he has no interest in doing that because he can afford the rent.
Yes, Your Honor.
So he's going to stay there. So I'm not so interested in his complaint. I'm interested in her answer and her counterclaim. So I think that if you're going to be mad at somebody, if you believe any of this was going on...
Yes.
And I'm not so sure.
Okay. May I explain just one more point, please?
No, don't explain anything yet, because I'm going to get to some dates.
Yes, ma'am.
Your girlfriend's daughter, that's who this is, your girlfriend's daughter...
Yes, ma'am.
...says in March of 2005, he was fired from his job. Is that true?
No, I quit.
You quit your job?
Correct.
Whatever, fired. When he came home, we started to argue about money. He walked away from me and got into his car. So far, okay? They were arguing. He got into his car to leave.
Yes.
Prior to that, a few weeks after they had moved in together, so in February, they had a fight, according to her. He punched me repeatedly in the head, slapped me in my legs as hard as he could. I attempted to get away and ran outside, but he dragged me back into the house and continued to beat me. This was all in front of the children. This is what she says.
Yes, Your Honor.
All in front of the children. I pleaded with him to stop, and he finally left. A few weeks later, in March, evidently they're still together. All the while, he's abusing her children and abusing her, beating her, none of which you saw any evidence of, by the way. Is that right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. Then in March, he was, according to her, fired from his job. He came home, they started to fight. He walked away to get into his car. So he walked away. Now, this is somebody that has beat her, dragged her into the house, punched her. So instead of saying, oh, he's leaving, I can get my stuff and my children and get out of here, right? Let's see what she does. You want to know what she says she does?
Yes, ma'am, please.
I followed him to finish talking. I knocked on his window to get his attention. You find that odd, Mr. Bell?
At this point, yes, I do, Your Honor.
Okay. He jumped out of the car and he hit me. I ran into the house and locked myself in our bedroom with my children. When I wouldn't let him in, he kicked down the door and threw me on the bed and continued hitting me. Just a second, are you getting mad at him?
Yes.
I don't believe her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I had bought him a shotgun, and I didn't know what he was capable of doing with that gun.
When did you buy him a shotgun?
March.
The first time he hit you and beat you was in February. Why did you buy him a shotgun in March?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Eric Enum says ex-girlfriend Michelle Hamlin owes for breaking a lease and an unpaid loan. Michelle is countersuing for vandalism to her car and punitive damages.
Now, there's got to be something wrong with somebody who has family at home. You look like a very nice man. You live in the same town?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
So we have somebody who has a mother who's clearly close to her. You have somebody who stands in what we call in French, in loco parentis, like a father to her, because you say you love her. Lives close by, who she can go to. So, according to her, he beats her up. You don't see any evidence of that. I assume you see her regularly.
Yes.
Right? She's still with him.
Yes.
They have another fight, but he leaves. He doesn't hit her. He doesn't touch her. She runs out of the house after him because she's not finished talking. Doesn't sound right to me. Does it sound right to you, sir?
Well, young people act a little differently, but to me, no, Your Honor.
All right. And this is, we're still talking March.
Yes, ma'am.
She didn't leave in March.
No, she did not.
When did you leave?
Like the middle of April.
Your counterclaim says on April 29th, in a fit of rage, he came to my job and saw me talking to one of my coworkers. But according to you, he had your daughter in the car, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what was he doing with your daughter in the car?
He was taking care of her while I was at work.
Right. And he took care of both of your children while you were at work.
He picked them up from the daycare. He chose to pick them up from daycare.
How often did he pick them up from daycare?
Mostly every day.
So after, according to you, he's been abusing your children since February, March, April. You allow him, unsupervised, to go and pick up your children? You understand me, Mr. Bell?
Yeah, I see your point, Your Honor.
Something doesn't ring true, Mr. Bell.
Up to this point, yes, Your Honor.
Well, that's the testimony so far. I'm practically finished with the complaint and the answer. I mean, I don't have voluminous papers here. I have somebody who says that he abuses her children, that he spanks her infant, spanked her so hard it would leave bruises, and yet she allows him to be with her children unsupervised. If I believe it's true, she's as guilty as he is. She's the mother. They're her children.
Yes.
Her job is to protect those children. Do you understand me?
Yes, ma'am.
You chose, as a baby, to have 2 children with somebody who is totally irresponsible, who doesn't take care of his children, and then according to you, and I'm questioning the truthfulness of what you say, you hook up with somebody who beats your children, and you stay with them.
He beat your children, you tell her. He beat your children.
Go ahead.
He beat my children, and I was scared to leave in the first place because I had bought him a shotgun, and I didn't know what he was capable of doing with that gun.
When did you buy him a shotgun?
Like in March.
Just a second. You told me that the first time he hit you and beat you was in February. Why did you buy him a shotgun in March? I'll get to you in a second. Why would you buy him a shotgun in March?
Because he wanted it to have protection from the kid's father.
Mr. Bell, don't buy everything that she's telling you, sir.
May I speak just for a couple words, please?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. I know that there's been numerous complaints against Michelle's children's first father with Eric and Michelle when they first got together. Numerous harassments over telephone, verbal assaults.
You mean by the father of these 2 children?
Yes, and they were both in fear from the beginning.
Just a minute. Did she confide that in you, sir?
Oh, yes.
That the father of her 2 children was harassing,
Yes.
threatening?
Yes.
Did she ever tell you that he was?
No.
Right. Now I'll hear you, because I know if I don't get you up here, we may have an accident. Okay. Who are you?
I'm Anna, and one of the witnesses.
Anna, you have a last name.
Arredondo.
Arredondo?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
On May 22nd of 2005, Michelle had came over to discuss some things with Eric, and
How do you know these two people?
I know these. I had met Michelle prior because they came over in my home, and I met her kids.
Just a second. So you're his friend?
Yes, I'm his friend.
How do you know him?
I've known him for 6 years.
Okay. So now you're going to tell me about something that happened in May.
Yes, in May 22nd, 2005, Michelle came over to Eric's home, and I was heading towards the kitchen, and I overheard her tell Eric.
Just one second. May 22nd, you went to his house?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go with the police?
No, I went with a friend.
What did you go there to discuss?
Discuss about my stuff in the house still?
Discuss your property?
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about somebody who beats you, beats your children, and you, without police protection, voluntarily went to his house.
Yes.
You got where I'm going, Mr. Bell?
I do, Your Honor.
Good. And what happened, Miss Arredondo? What did you hear?
I heard her, and I quote, if you take me to court, I'm just going to lie and tell the judge that you hit me. And Eric said, go ahead, she's just going to see that you're lying. So that's all I can witness.
That's a lie.
Tell him.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
I don't think so.
Eric Enum claims ex-girlfriend Michelle Hamlin broke their apartment lease and failed to repay his loan.
Okay. All I can do is look at conduct. According to you, you entered into an abusive relationship with someone with whom you had 2 children. Then you went to live with him.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to you, he started to abuse you as soon as you signed the lease in this house together. Seriously abusing you, beating, punching, hitting, kicking, but also did the same thing to your 2 infant children. And you continued to live with him. And when you had another fight, he wanted to leave the house, you followed him outside. And then he beat you again. And then you still continued to live with him and allowed your children to live with him. And not only did you allow your children to live with him, but you allowed him unsupervised care of your children. He was the caretaker of your children while you were working. Now, when for the first time did you report his abusive conduct to you and your children to the police?
I never reported it
Why not?
because I was scared if I did report it that he would do something else.
Your Honor, we haven't got to the part where he was driving recklessly with a child in the back of the car, doing donuts in the parking lot at her work.
Did you see that, Mr. Bell?
Myself, no.
So I just asked you if you saw that.
I did not see that.
Okay. Now, Mr. Edmonds says that he had the child in the car and he went to get her because why?
Because she said she was going to a party that night and going to leave me with the kids.
And what did you say to her?
So let her know you're not. You need to be home with your kids.
And she said,
She said, no, I'm not. I'm taking my kids. I'm going out.
I'm taking my kids and I'm going out.
Correct.
So what did you do?
I went to her work,
And you saw her doing what?
being all over.
Listen to me. Go ahead.
I saw her being all over 2 other guys in the parking lot.
So you got mad.
Correct.
Were you driving around in a reckless manner in the parking lot
No,
with
ma'am.
the child in the car?
No, ma'am.
What did you do?
I told her to get in the car and go home. And when we got to our place of residence, I put it in the garage, and the police came right behind us.
Because she had called the police.
Correct.
Had you called him that day to tell him you were going out?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you tell him you were going to be home?
Probably
Don't look down there. When did you tell him you were going to be home?
like about 12 or 1.
In the morning.
Yeah.
And who was supposed to watch the children till 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning?
I told him that I was going to go to a friend's house and watch a movie and that I would come and pick up my daughter and take her with me. He told me that
Just a second. Where was your other child?
my other child was with his dad
When did the other child go with his father?
in the morning time.
This is the same father who you were afraid of and you bought him a shotgun to protect the 2 of you from?
Yes, ma'am.
You got a lot of work to do, Mr. Bell. Her judgment is impaired. Do you understand? You don't get it. Her judgment is impaired.
She's young, and I watched her mature from a teenager to a very good mother. And she is a very good mother, Your Honor.
Impossible! Impossible if I believe what she wrote in her answer, Mr. Bell. Impossible if I believe her that she allowed her children to be in a circumstance with this man who abused her children. That makes her the worst possible mother. The worst possible mother. To sit there and watch a stranger to the children, she says, beat her baby with bruises, and you're telling me matured into a very good mother? Your judgment is impaired.
I believe sometimes, Your Honor, that love is blind. It may be
Love
hard.
may be blind, and there are women who stay in abusive relationships. She clearly is one of those people who stayed, at least in her first relationship, which was abusive, although she continues to have the lunatic that she described to me before that required protection by a shotgun. She allowed that person to take her infant child. Impaired judgment. And I don't believe her. I don't believe that she was the victim of the kind of abuse she ascribes to the plaintiff. She filed not one police report. You saw no evidence of abuse on either her or her children. She didn't even file a police report after she moved. As a matter of fact, after she moved out and she was free and clear of this horrendous person who beat her and her children, she went back to his house. Is that the action of somebody who's afraid? Okay. Listen to me, sir. You get not a dime from her. You're living in a house. You're happy living there. What you are required to do in this kind of circumstance is to mitigate your damages, which means you put an ad in the internet, you put an ad in the local paper for a roommate. You chose not to do that. That's wonderful. You can afford it. Live there. I don't believe your allegations with regard to your counterclaim, madam. And I think that you have to. If you made 2 children, you better get smart. Because if on the long shot that anything that you say here was true, you have so far made 2 very poor choices. And you have a responsibility to your 2 children to choose more wisely with regard to mates that you select, or else make up your mind that you're not going to have a mate for a while and you're going to rely on this gentleman and your mother as family to help raise your children. And grow up. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back with you.
Rebecca Castillo is suing her former lover, 21-year-old Manuel Gonzalez, for wrecking her car while driving drunk. Manuel claims he was never behind the wheel.
Yeah, this is case number 203 on the calendar in the matter of Castillo versus Gonzalez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Okay, Miss Castillo, it is your claim that Mr. Gonzalez, who was a friend of yours, somehow got hold of your car and caused damage on 3 separate occasions in one night.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez says that you were so drunk that night that you don't remember that you were driving and you caused the damage to your own car.
Not true.
Right?
Right.
And you are just friends?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I was messing
I don't
around
want to
for a
guess
while.
what I'm going to say anything. I'm asking you, are you just friends or are you more than friends?
Yes, we were just friends.
Not intimate?
Yes, we were intimate a couple times.
Well, Bert is my friend. We have never been intimate. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand the difference? How old are you?
Yes, 21.
How old are you?
35.
All right. So that's a little bit of a difference. Okay, so you were intimate friends. That's a new
Yes.
category of friends. There are people who are intimate, then there are friends, and then somewhere in the middle there are intimate friends. You are one of those. When did this assault on your car take place?
June 5th.
Okay. And what were you doing out with Mr. Gonzalez?
Actually, I was home when he called me and asked me to give him and his friend Mike a ride home. And I went.
Why did they need a ride home?
I didn't ask.
And you said, fine, I'll come and pick you up and give you a ride home.
Sure.
Keep going.
When I got to the restaurant, the establishment, he was there with 3 other gentlemen. They were there eating and drinking, and I ordered a margarita, and we were there for about an hour and a half.
How many margaritas did you have?
Just 1, Your Honor. And then from there, they wanted to take off, and we went to a billiards place where we were there only a half hour. I played billiards with one of the other gentlemen that was there with them. They wanted to leave. We went to another local establishment, a local bar.
So you were playing chauffeur that night?
Pretty much.
So the reason for the phone call was you guys wanted to drink and you needed somebody to
Drive.
chauffeur you around.
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
Yes, I did.
What did you say to her?
I asked her for a ride because we had all been drinking.
Well, a ride to take you home is one thing. A ride to schlep you from one place to another so you can continue to drink is something entirely different.
Oh, well, we planned on going home, but when she got there, she started drinking with us, and we said, well, you feel like going somewhere else? She said, yeah, so we went.
Keep going, Ms. Castillo.
When we left that establishment, we dropped off his other friend, the one that they went in a car with, to his car, to his vehicle, and from there I went to a local gas station in that same shopping center. When I went there, I got off, left the keys in the ignition, paid gas to the pump where I was parked at. When I came out, my car was gone. I panicked. I was looking around the parking lot, looking to see where they were. I gave them time. I'm thinking maybe it's a practical joke. Maybe they're out there looking at me, freaking out. I gave them about 15, 20 minutes, and at that point, I had dialed 911 to report the car stolen. when I looked up, he was driving back in the car with his friend still in the car. I was yelling at him. He refused to get out of the driver's side and said he was going to drive himself and his friends home. Said, fine. I pumped the gas in my car, got in the passenger side, and he drove his first friend home. He drove recklessly to the point where that friend didn't even wait till the car came to a complete stop. He literally jumped out of the car before he stopped the car in motion. Okay, and he tells me that's what you get for hanging out with a 21-year-old. He yells that through the window.
Sounds right to me.
Yeah. He speeds off, and I'm yelling and telling him to stop, get out of the car. He doesn't get off the car. Drives down the road where there's construction on both sides of the road. There's bolted cones with concrete dividers on both sides of the road. He's driving recklessly. He's hitting these cones. I counted 8. When I seen him headed towards the concrete divider, I literally had to put my hand on the steering wheel to avoid a real major crash. When I did that, he still didn't stop. He had all green lights for whatever reason. We drove to his house. We go into his house. I told him I wanted some resolve. I wanted something in writing. He tells me to go wait.
Just a second. You went into his house. And what happened when you got into his house?
We were talking.
Look at me. Now here, you see, I can tell when somebody is not giving me the accurate story. So don't start embellishing now what you think you want to tell me. What happened when you went into his house?
We talked. I told him I wanted...
What did you say to him?
I told him I wanted something in writing. I asked him, how are we going to handle the situation?
What situation?
About him hitting the car. I hadn't seen the damages to the car yet. I knew he was hitting the pylons, and I knew he had already hit, there was some damage, but I hadn't actually inspected the car at this point. So then he brushes me off, goes into the back room, talks to his friend Mike, then he tells me to wait for him in my car outside, and we'll talk some more. So there I go. I walked outside of the house, went into the car, sat in my car, and at this point I see him getting in Mike's car, and they're driving away. So I turned on my car, I followed them to an apartment complex, all the way across town. At this point, I'm looking for my cell phone, which I couldn't find, somewhere on the floor.
Because you're drunk.
That's not true. And when we got there, I followed them to a dead end, and I had to back up. I backed up so that they can straighten out. They were there in the car for about 5 minutes, and then Mr. Gonçalves gets off the car, comes towards my car. In the meantime, his friend Mike drives off, tells me to move over so we could talk. Then he's telling me that he had no reason to bow down to me like I was some princess, that that's the reason why he doesn't have a valid license, because he can't drive. And he puts the car in reverse, backs it into the wall, then he drives off.
So you let him get into the driver's side of the car, according to you, and you moved over. I assume you have a bench seat in the front?
It's not a bench seat, no.
What is it?
Two separate seats.
Two separate seats. So you had to crawl over, and where's the whatever?
It's right there in the
shift?
center.
It's in the middle.
It's in the middle.
Yeah.
So you had to sort of get your leg over there, and he opened up the driver's side, unless you got out of the driver's side and walked around to the passenger side, so you scooted over somehow. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I did.
You scooted over somehow and let him in.
I didn't have a choice. He was practically sitting on my lap.
Miss Castillo.
Well, I still scooted over.
Miss Castillo, my dear, you're a 35-year-old woman. You had a choice. As soon as he got to his house and you dropped him off, instead of following him across town to an apartment complex in a dead-end street, you call 911. And you say, this man got into my car, took my car, damaged my car. I want to report the damage to my car. Because according to you, you went into his house, Miss Castillo, to get him to sign a piece of paper. Did he sign it?
No.
So at that point, you should have had some clue that he was not going to take responsibility for what he had done to your car. Is that right?
No.
You thought he was going to take responsibility, and that's why he got into Mike's car and
no,
drove
that's why
away?
I followed him, because I didn't know if he was going to drop him off somewhere and disappear. But when I tried to look for my cell phone, I couldn't find it. It wasn't on in my purse.
All right, Mr. Gonçalves, go.
My turn?
That's why I'm looking at you.
Yeah, after we left the first establishment, we went to another bar. We did have about 3 pictures. When we left, she asked me to drive because she had been drinking. I said, no, there's no way I'm going to drive. I have a DUI. I'll pick up another one, and I'm in trouble.
I don't want you to speak.
So I told her no. She asked everybody to drive, actually, but she pestered me about it. I didn't drive. When we went to the gas station, nobody took her car. She came back, put gas. We dropped off my friend. We dropped off another friend, went to our house. She followed me inside, and we were there for about 2 hours. And she didn't ask me
What were you
about...
doing for the 2 hours in your house?
We were playing intimate friendship. And after that...
You're a fast learner.
Yeah.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This is a tape recorder where he leaves me a voice message the day after the incident where he admits he took off in my car without me.
Oh, I'd like to hear that.
And later today,
A bad check was written on it, and you knew that it was an account that had no funds in it. That's bank fraud, for which you can go to jail.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Rebecca Castillo says former lover Manuel Gonçalves drove her car without permission and wrecked it. Manuel claims Rebecca is making up a story.
Keep going.
Then after that, I told her to leave because we had to drop off one of my buddy Mike's girlfriend that had just got there. And I didn't want to see her anymore. And she got upset and was telling me things about me and her. And I told her, I'm not with you. I don't want to be with you. I don't want to have nothing to do with you.
This is after you played intimate friendship?
Yes. Of course. And then after that, she went to her car. We left. About halfway to our destination, we realized she was following us. We turned into the apartments where we were supposed to be. She followed us in, and you have to turn like zigzag. So we parked on the side, and as soon as she came in, I got off the car and told her why she was following me, and I was pretty upset. While she mashes out in reverse, boom, hits a wall, and I ran around the side of the car to the driver's side because I was pissed. I was telling her things, I probably shouldn't have been saying. But then she takes off forward and hits the front side of her car on one of those big poles.
Okay. Now, I see that you have something over there, Ms. Castillo. I'd like you to tell me what it is.
This is a tape recorder where he leaves me a voice message the day after the incident where he admits he took off in my car without me.
Oh, I'd like to hear that. That I would like to hear, and I would like you to give it to Officer Burtz because I want to listen to it very carefully. You wouldn't have done that, sir.
No,
is that right?
No, that's not my voice.
Oh. Let's see. Oh.
Yesterday, when you left at the night, your car was fine. I don't know what you're tripping on. I didn't do nothing to your car. I didn't hit nothing, and after I took off, I only took off once without you. And when I came back, your car was fine. I didn't hit nothing, so I don't know why you're going to be mad at me. But if you're all right, you're late.
That is your voice, Mr. Gonçalves?
That is not my voice.
Sure it is.
Did that even admit that I was driving?
Yeah, it said that I only took off in your car once, and I didn't do any damage to your car.
Well, that wasn't me. I haven't driven.
I only took off. Listen to me. This is what it says.
Okay.
And you know what's logical, Mr. Gonçalves, because you're a smart young man.
Yes.
If she was going to falsify this and have somebody else pretend that they were you,
yes,
she would have had this person say, listen, I'm sorry I did all the damage to your car. I'll pay you for it.
Yes.
Wouldn't have had them say, listen, I didn't damage your car. I took off with it once and I brought it back. Nothing happened to it. So I don't know what you're complaining about. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
Good. So this is your voice, and you acknowledge that you took off once with her car, but you say, I didn't cause any damage to your car. That I believe. So you see, you shouldn't fib.
Okay.
Because if you fib, then I can doubt everything that you're telling me. Now, Ms. Castillo, I don't believe you damaged your car. I think that you were really angry, and I think that if your car got damaged, you did it, or you let him drive your car. Now, if you're going to choose playmates, you got to choose playmates that are somehow equal to you. These young men, on that night in June, were doing nothing more than using you as a chauffeur. I am not comfortable enough with your story to find that Mr. Gonçalves, as outrageous as his behavior might be, and however morally reprehensible his behavior might be, is responsible for the damage to your car, Ms. Castillo. So your complaint is dismissed. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She's probably hating that I didn't want to be with her.
I didn't even want him.
She said it over and over that she wanted to be with me. And
He's not even my type.
he was a nice person, but I wasn't having it, you know what I mean?
The lies just don't stop. In his dreams.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Goodall versus Elder. Step forward, please.
19-year-old nanny Stephanie Goodall is suing her former employer, 26-year-old Wendy Elder, for a fraudulent check she cashed on Wendy's behalf.
Bird, you got to listen to this very carefully. I don't always ask you to do it, but this one is just one of those.
I will pay attention.
Okay. Miss Goodall was Miss Elder's nanny.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to the complaint, Miss Elder, according to her, received a check from some relative. And the check, for some reason, was made out to Miss Goodall, because according to Miss Elder, this relative was old. And she asked Miss Goodall to cash the check. Miss Goodall deposited the check for $1,850 in her checking account, and then slowly, over the course of several days, withdrew the money and gave it to Miss Elder. It turns out that the check bounced. Now, Miss Elder got the cash and spent it.
Of course.
Miss Goodall got the shaft because her bank wants their money.
Sure.
Miss Elder is outraged that Miss Goodall is suing her, and she's going to explain why. Go.
Your Honor, I didn't write those checks. They were not in my name. They were in her name. I spoke to my relative over the phone. I explained to him that we were having a nanny for my brother's wedding, and he offered to pay expenses and nanny expenses. And I said,
okay. Just a minute. You're adding that to your answer, by the way. That's not what you said in your answer. What you said in your answer was that a relative of your husband's agreed to help you with trip expenses. Not nanny expenses, trip expenses.
Trip and nanny expenses, Your Honor.
Listen to me. You have a husband, correct?
Yes, Your
because
Honor.
you say this is a relative of your husband's.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I assume your husband has a job?
Yes, Your Honor.
And what about you?
I'm a stay-at-home mom of 2.
You're a stay-at-home mom. Do you have a home?
We live in an apartment.
Do you pay rent?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have a car?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your husband has a job?
Yes, Your Honor.
You pay telephone, gas, electric?
Yes, Your Honor.
You pay them by check or cash?
We pay them by money order.
So your husband gets his paycheck, and what does he do with it?
We go.
Don't think fast. What does he do with his paycheck?
He cashes it.
Where?
At the bank.
What bank?
Wells Fargo.
Is that where you keep your account? You
No.
can't cash a check there unless...
It's drawn on there.
What kind of work does he do?
A grocer. He's a grocery manager.
How long has he worked there?
11 years.
Is there any reason why you don't have a checking account? Is not an answer. Most people have a reason. If they have a job for 11 years, they have a wife, they have 2 children, they have an apartment, they have gas, electric, telephone. Most people have checking accounts. So don't give me an answer that's not going to sit well with me, Miss Elder. Why don't you have a checking account?
We're unable to get one.
Why?
Bankruptcy.
They won't give you a checking account because you have a bankruptcy?
In the last 2 years, yes, Your Honor.
No, my dear. You may not be able to get a checking account because you've committed bank fraud before. That's a possibility.
I've never done that before, Your Honor.
Maybe your husband has.
No, he's not, Your Honor.
Well, if you have a bankruptcy, you can still get a checking account. All you have to do is put money in it.
We have a savings account.
Well, you have a savings account. Well, then you can open up a checking account in the same bank that you have a savings account in. So there's a reason why you don't have a checking account. You have to do the explanation to me how you got the money, she got the shaft, and how she has nerve to sue you. Do you have an answer?
No, Your Honor.
So why didn't you give her money back?
Because I don't have that money. I didn't give it to her.
She wasn't paid by your relative. There's a difference if your relative said, I'm going to pay your nanny, and he gives her a bad check. She cashed the check and gave the cash to you. Don't you catch the difference?
I catch the difference, Your Honor, but it wasn't, she didn't give me the whole cash.
How much money did she give you? How much money did you give her?
I gave her $1,900, Your Honor.
I have record of $1,500.
So let's say I believe you now that we're getting to $1,500. She gave you the cash. Why shouldn't you give it back to her if the check was bad?
Well, my relative or my husband's relative should give it to her, not I.
Can I say something? I have record that shows that this was from her account, not from her relative.
Just a second. Maybe the records that you have are going to help me figure out whether she's a thief or dumb.
Okay.
Let me see.
Right.
Bakersfield Police Department advised that the account on which the check was drawn belonged to Christopher and Wendy Elder. However, the account was closed by the bank in August 2001. That makes you a thief instead of just stupid. Now, that's from the police department.
Well, they didn't talk to me at all.
I don't care whether they don't have to talk to you. Explain it to me. The account had been yours. It was closed in 2001.
I don't see how that's possible. We have record that it's still open.
Is what you're telling me now that you acknowledge this is your account? Listen to me, Miss Elder. I'm going to advise you right now, because I feel as if it's my responsibility to advise you, that we are taping this, and that I plan on sending this tape to the local law enforcement authority in Bakersfield. So far, you are very close to admitting to bank fraud. And I feel as if without having the benefit of consulting with an attorney, you would do very well to say to me, I don't think I want to answer these questions anymore, Judge. Because what you say in your answer was, listen, it wasn't my bank account, it was my relative's bank account, and I didn't know anything about it. Now we come to a fact from your mouth that it was a bank account that belonged to you and your husband. You said, and my relative. Maybe, maybe not. But if it belonged to the three of you and a bad check was written on it and you knew that it was an account that had no funds in it, that's bank fraud, for which you can go to jail. And my sense is, if you are a woman who doesn't have a checking account and who has a husband who's worked in the same place for 11 years, you are no stranger to problems with banks. Do you follow my drift?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want to answer my questions anymore?
No, Your Honor.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Laura Schmitz is suing Cody and Brandy Mather for attorney fees, loss of property, and travel expenses. Laura claims the Mathers breached a contract regarding the sale of a weekend cabin.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 195 on the calendar in the matter of Schmitz versus Mather.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Well, folks, I must tell you that I have been involved in the sale of property over the course of my lifetime, and this is one of the dumbest contracts that I have ever seen. And why three seemingly intelligent people would enter into such a ridiculous agreement is beyond me. And why the attorneys who represented you in the sale of this cabin would allow you to enter into this agreement. Maybe it's because you're young, but You're not that young. So this is what it's about, Bert. Listen, careful attention.
Got it.
Miss Schmitz had a cabin that she was very fond of. It was a vacation cabin. However, as fond as she was of the cabin, she decided to sell it. And she sold it to Mr. and Mrs. Mather, a lovely young couple who wanted a vacation place. Where is this cabin located?
Sasheen Lake, Washington.
Beautiful, on a lake. However, Miss Schmitz wasn't prepared to totally let go of this cabin, so she maintained, through a letter of intent with the Mathers, an agreement that twice a year she was going to be able to use the cabin for a week each. Once Memorial Day, where she had a big party every year, and once during the summer. These folks agreed to that condition. Now, the first week she used the cabin, according to her, everything was okay.
Yes.
But when she was planning the second weekend, Mr. and Mrs. Mather were having second thoughts already about this agreement. So they sort of, according to her, made it unpleasant. They didn't give her the key to the cabin. They said, we're not giving you a key. We'll unlock it, and when you leave, you lock it, which sort of, to her, made her a prisoner in the cabin because she couldn't leave for the whole week. She was afraid the cabin would be unlocked and unattended to. And then she found her stuff piled up because she sold the cabin furnished. Anyway, because of what she considered a breach of their contract, she hired an attorney to sort of get involved. So she is suing them now because she wants the attorney's fees that she expended to sort of make sure this weekend took place. And then when she went there, you flew there, is that right?
Yes, it's over 300 miles from where I live.
So did you fly, is my question.
Yes.
To make a long story short, she didn't stay. So she wants them to pay for her airfare and for some stuff of hers that she says was missing from the cabin. I don't know what could be missing since she sold it. I don't understand that. Mr. and Mrs. Mather say, well, they really weren't thrilled with her coming for the second weekend because they had heard via neighbors about the previous weekend, but they never told her that she couldn't come, and that when she was there previously, she broke some things, she took some things, and also for lawyers' fees because they had to get their lawyer involved to talk to her lawyer about this alleged breach of contract for the second week vacation. Did I sort of outline it pretty well?
Yes,
Yes, perfect.
Whose idea was this sail with tentacles?
Laura's.
Your Honor, it was my idea because I was giving up thousands of dollars in a prepayment penalty so that they could get their own financing.
You bought the cabin when?
In '94.
And you bought
a 20-year contract.
Which said?
$1,000 for every year and partial year that you end the contract, and it was an assumable contract.
Just a second. You're talking about a mortgage?
Correct, a contract.
Oh, just a second. It's not a contract. You're talking about you had a mortgage. That was an assumable mortgage.
With a prepayment penalty.
Oh, now I understand. We're talking apples and oranges.
I'm glad you understand.
All right. She had an assumable mortgage, but if they wanted to pay off the mortgage, if she wanted to pay off the mortgage early, there was a penalty. If she got somebody to assume her mortgage on the cabin, then there wasn't a penalty. And you did or did not assume the mortgage?
We didn't assume the mortgage.
You didn't assume the mortgage so that it cost you $10,000 extra, in your way of thinking, to sell it to these people.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, let me tell you this, Ms. Schmitz, that's a skewed way of thinking because all you have to do is find another prospective buyer who'd pay you an additional $10,000. But what you don't do is say, well, I'm going to sell it to you, but I want to be able to use it twice a year for free, forever, because that's dumb.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes.
It's not the last cabin in the world.
No.
So how long have you been married?
8 years.
8 years, yeah.
How difficult is marriage?
It's hard.
What?
It's a lot of work.
And you love him.
Yes.
Right? You don't love her.
No.
You just signed on to be married to her
I know.
forever.
That's right.
And our family warned us and warned us. I know.
Family.
My mom. I know. She knew.
You don't love her. She's a stranger. You don't know if she's a nut. You don't know what her friends are like. You don't know if she's a slob. You don't know, whatever. And you have married her for as long as you have that cabin. And I don't even know if this provision of 2 weeks goes with the sale of the cabin, does it?
No, it was a side.
So now I'm really going to try to help you. What's it going to take, Miss Schmitz, to let them out of this stupid deal?
Well, she told me on this.
What is it going to take, Miss Schmitz, to let them out of this stupid deal?
I would like to be paid for the money that I lost.
$4,000.
No, a lot more than $4,000. And today is not about the prepayment penalty.
Just a second. Who do you live with?
Myself.
You have to find something else to do with the next 5 years of your life other than sue these people. Because the contract that you entered into was dumb. The prepayment penalty for your mortgage had absolutely nothing to do with selling them this property with this 2-week provision. It's dumb, and you should finish it today. And you should allow me to help you. I'm prepared to help you. If you don't want me to help you, I don't think you're going to like the judgment today. Do we understand each other?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I offered them the use of my home. Does that also negate that offer?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We don't want to use her home.
It's over.
And later today,
I just kind of figured the whole thing was a wash. It was easier just to get out of each other's lives and move on.
You expect me to accept that, sir? And you think that I am not going to humiliate you in front of 10 million people?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Laura Schmidt says Cody and Brandy Mather owe for breach of contract regarding the sale of a weekend cabin.
You have to find another purpose for living other than this cabin. You have to let it go. Now, if it's going to cost $4,000 to let them out of this ridiculousness, it will give you the opportunity to spend the next 4 years someplace else, $1,000 a week, celebrating your birthday, Memorial Day, or whatever else you want to celebrate. But you have to let them out of this ridiculous bargain, because otherwise what they're going to do is, as much as they love the cabin, they're going to sell it to somebody, maybe even a relative, to get out from under this ridiculous commitment that they made. So it's my job to try to reduce the amount of litigious behavior we have in this country, not expand it. So I am prepared to help you, Ms. Schmitz. Do you want me to help you?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you again. How much is it going to cost to let them out of this ridiculous contract?
Your Honor, I'm out $4,000 in addition to the thousands I paid in the prepayment penalty.
They're not responsible for your prepayment penalty. That's your bag. You could have said to the realtor, one of the conditions of a purchaser is someone who is going to assume my mortgage, so it won't cost me an additional $10,000. How much did you pay for the property, Ms. Schmitz?
$62,094.
How much did you sell it for?
$131.
So that's not bad, and you had the use and enjoyment of it, and you doubled your money. And even if you say, well, you had a prepayment penalty on your mortgage, take off $10,000, $121. So you doubled your money in 10 years. That's pretty good, right? So I'm going to ask you again, what is it going to cost to let these people out of this ridiculous contract that you both entered into?
Your Honor, I wasn't prepared to talk about the prepayment penalty.
I just talked about the prepayment penalty. Did I make sense to you?
Yes.
You think it's going to make more sense to retain a lawyer, sue them, continue to sue them, because the lawyer's going to charge you money. I would charge you money at the rate of $500 an hour. And a lot more aggravation. So all I'm telling you is you have to find a life other than suing these people. It's over. And I am prepared to help you. I would take me up on my offer.
I will.
Good. So let's go again. How much is it going to cost to let them out of this ridiculous contract? Then I'm going to ask them if they're prepared for it.
Since the maximum I'm allowed to ask for of the $15,000 is $4,000, I guess that's the maximum I can receive.
Well, I'm going to let you amend your complaint to ask for $5, because that's the jurisdictional limit of this court.
Thank you.
Now I'm going to come to you. Ms. Schmitz is prepared to have me enter an order that says, upon the payment of $5,000, that she will declare null and void the requirement that she use the house for 2 weeks a year, and then you will both withdraw these claims. What do you think?
I agree.
That sounds good.
Sounds great.
Very smart.
Now we're...
Okay. You have a copy of the letter of intent that forms the basis of your lawsuit? You prepared to withdraw at this point your counterclaim?
We do.
It's going to be a very simple order that I will sign, you will sign. So I'm going to ask you to wait outside. Bird will call you. Yes.
Your Honor, in good faith, I offered them the use of my home. Does that also negate that offer?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We don't want to use her home.
Absolutely. You don't want to use your home, you don't use their home. Go, goodbye, have a happy life, good luck.
Thank you.
Judge Judy, you may step out.
She stole things from our cabin. She possibly messed with our water. Our kids got sick.
I just felt very anxious that they weren't being truthful with me.
She's had these wild, crazy parties, 40 to 60 people. I mean, it just drunken mess with cops called out.
It absolutely fell apart this spring when they refused to let me have it as they agreed upon at closing.
We fell in love with this cabin, and we knew it would be perfect for our family, and we made a really stupid decision.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Doyle versus Peterson. Step forward.
Carolyn Doyle is suing her ex-boyfriend, Matthew Peterson, for a loan to fix his teeth. Matthew says he helped Carolyn fix her house.
Miss Doyle, you used to live with this gentleman. How long did you live with him?
Matthew and I started dating July 4th of 1999, and he lived with myself and my children off and on for a total of about 2 years. 1 year, then moved out, then moved back in for a year, then moved back out.
And during that time, which we'll pinpoint better later, you claim that without your authorization, he forged your name as a co-signer to a loan for some dental work that he wanted.
I don't know if he ever signed my name. He did open an account and took out a dental loan using my Social Security number, and it shows up on my credit record as
Okay, but you never signed it?
No, I did not.
Well, so somebody signed your name to it.
I never saw the document, Your Honor. Okay.
I assume he has the document somewhere in his pocket. In any event, he didn't pay the loan?
Correct.
And it's negatively impacted on your credit?
Correct.
You no longer are together, and you want him to pay the bill?
Correct.
Smile pretty, Mr. Peterson. What was wrong with your teeth?
2 porcelain crowns on my front teeth, and both of them were fractured. And
So it was cosmetic work.
more or less, without them, though, I just have 2 posts there,
Not attractive, but clearly you can live that way.
I suppose.
Now, when did you want to replace these 2 porcelain crowns?
I was living with it cracked for probably about a year or so, and then in the process of chewing gum, it completely broke off one afternoon, and I was left with just the post that goes under the crown, my real tooth, and it was somewhat of an emergency at that point. You know, the following morning, the dentist squeezed me in, and
Now, were you and Miss Doyle living together at the time?
no.
Were you still seeing each other?
Yes.
Exclusively?
Yes.
Any reason why you weren't living together?
We lived together when I owned my condo, and I wanted to flip that into a single-family home because I have 3 kids, and I wanted him to have a nice home with a backyard in a neighborhood, and he didn't agree with my decision to sell the condo. I was buying it on my own. He wasn't buying it with me, but he disagreed with my decision to sell the condo and buy the house. So when I
Well,
sold...
just my own curiosity, why?
I think he thought things were fine the way they were, and so why move?
Okay, so that's when he moved out, but you still continued to see each other.
Correct.
So now the dentist squeezes you in August.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm listening.
Okay, I went to the dentist's office in the morning upon looking at the other front tooth that was fractured as well, so they said, we have to take care of both of them. I couldn't cover it on such short notice, so they said, well, you can go ahead and apply for this in-house credit we have here, which I did, was denied. They said, do you have a co-signer? At that point, I called Carolyn from the office, and she said, yeah, here's my number, here's the Social Security number, and I'll be back. You know, I'll have to go down there and actually sign the document at a later date, which I don't know if that ever happened or not. And they proceeded with the work, and that was it.
Why didn't you pay the bill?
I was making monthly payments.
Now you're looking at your shoes.
I made the first couple payments, and then I came late on one. She said, I can't have this affecting my credit with you making late payments. And then she said, let me just pay off the whole loan, and you can just pay me. And then when we ultimately ended up breaking up, walked out, and that was the end of that. And I had done considerable amounts of work on her house, remodeling, fixing it up,
Which
paintings.
I paid him for.
Just a second. Judge, please don't interrupt.
I'm sorry.
And I just kind of figured the whole thing was a wash. It was easier just to get out of each other's lives and move on.
So you mean you stuck Miss Doyle, who is a single parent, raising 3 children, with bills for your cosmetic dentistry? I mean, you expect me to accept that, sir? And you think that I am not going to humiliate you in front of 10 million people? Go ahead.
Upon our last conversation when I left, I was served with papers days later, so there was never any opportunity to discuss any kind of payment plan. She never asked me for the money.
Why should she have to ask you for anything? How old are you?
32.
You work?
Yes, ma'am.
You have children?
No.
So whatever work you do, you just manage to take care of yourself,
Correct.
right? Now, what about Miss Doyle? Does she work?
Yes, she does.
And she takes care of 3 children?
Yes, she does.
And she runs a house? Let me ask you a question. When you were living in the house, did she have household help?
No, myself.
Did she have, yeah, I know how helpful you are. Did she have household help?
No,
Who did the laundry?
she did.
Who cleaned the bathrooms?
She did.
Who had a full-time job?
She did.
Who had 3 children?
She does.
Who had 2 cracked porcelain crowns.
That's me.
Are you embarrassed?
When you lay it out like that, yes, I am.
Well, if your mother didn't lay it out for you like that, I'm going to lay it out for you like that. How much was your dental work?
All said and done, approximately $2,700.
How much of that did you pay?
About $300.
What kind of car do you drive?
Ford truck.
What year?
2000.
Were you making payments on it in 2004?
Yes.
Were you paying rent in 2004?
Yes.
You get where I'm going?
Yes, I do.
Peterson. Anything else you want to say?
I'd like to add just the extent of the work I did around her house. It was a verbal agreement.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Peterson. I just asked you a few questions. When you were living together, did you take a shower?
Yes.
Who cleaned the bathroom?
She did.
When you were living together, did you change your underwear at least every other day?
Yes, ma'am.
Who did the laundry?
She did.
You get
Not
my,
exclusively.
You get my drift?
I get your drift.
I won't even go into other more intimate details, sir, but I can almost guarantee you this. Believe me, you got the better end of the bargain. She knows what I mean. So do most of the other women. You owe her $2,400. Pay it. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. On Maya versus Grumshaw, step forward, please.
Lucille Meyer says her 15-year-old daughter, Heather, was assaulted in school by George Grumshaw's daughter, Rebecca. The two girls began an argument between classes that turned into a violent brawl. Rebecca says Heather started it.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. All rise. Sir. Judges number 224 on the calendar in the matter of Maya versus Grumshaw. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have seats, ladies.
You two folks are the parents of these two young ladies. And you, madam, are suing
Yes.
her father because you allege
Yes.
that this young lady assaulted your daughter in school, caused serious injury.
Yes.
You're suing for both medical bills and pain and suffering.
Yes. I have it all with me, Judge.
Neither of you were at the school at this time. Is that correct?
No.
No, ma'am.
So you don't know what happened,
No, ma'am, we don't.
right? Other than what your daughters tell you. So then why don't you two folks have a seat? You two ladies step up. Tell me your first name.
My name's Heather.
Heather, can you speak up, please?
Heather.
And tell me what happened.
I knew Becky from junior high when she was in my PE class, and she...
PE, physical education?
Yeah, physical education. And she used to ask me if I was in modeling and stuff, her and her friends, and I was uncomfortable about it, and the principal did talk to her, and she stopped.
So you thought she was bothering you in junior high school?
Yeah.
Okay. That was a while ago.
Yeah. And so my second week of ninth grade year, I was hazed for drill team. And they woke me up on September 13th from my bed and dressed me up as a clown.
Who did?
Drill team.
But she had nothing to do with that.
No, it's getting to the story. She had the PE class right next to drill team with me. And a guy I knew said in the PE class of hers, "She looks cute today, doesn't she?" And she said in reply, "I'm going to kick that Barbie bitch's ass." And went on to tell me
Did you hear that?
No, he told me.
Okay, you can't tell me what he told you.
Okay. And so I went to second period where she and her friend would bug me about saying, "Heather, shut up, don't talk." And she had pushed me into my chair in art.
How did she push you into your chair?
She walked by when it was cleanup time and pushed me into my chair.
How physically did she push you?
She bumped it, and I told her to knock it off, and she stepped on my foot, and I went to go get up, and she tripped.
She tripped?
She tripped.
And fell?
Mm-hmm. She didn't fall.
She didn't fall?
She didn't fall, but she lost her balance and went back to her seat. And the bell rang, and we all rushed for the door, and I was one of the first people out. And I heard her friend say, "Becky, wait up." And she said, "No, I have to help the Barbie bitch out the door." And I turned around to say...
Who said, "Let's help the Barbie bitch out the door"?
Becky.
Go ahead.
And so I turned around and say, "What?" And she tripped me. And then she proceeded to pick me up and throw me into the wall. And then from there, I said, "What are you doing?" And she just came after me and repeatedly hit me into the wall again. My head into the wall. Then she dropped me, and I fell on my knees. And I tried to get up, but I was unable to get up because my knees were hurting so bad. And then she picked me up again by my t-shirt and started hitting me to the wall about 20 times, I'd say. And then I remember her dropping me, and she was cussing at me at this time, and I was crying.
What was she saying to you?
She said, "I'm going to kill you, Barbie bitch. I'm going to you up."
Why does she call you Barbie bitch? Because she thinks that you believe she thinks you look like a Barbie doll?
I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember falling on the ground. She pushed me on the ground, and she picked me back up again by my head, my hair, started socking my face. Then she tried to headbutt me, and I used my hands to stop her from doing that. She threw me on the ground by my face. I rolled over and tried to get up, but my backpack pushed me down.
You have hospital report?
Yes.
Can I see the hospital report, please? Okay, Becky. I'd like to hear your version of what happened.
I've known Heather since junior high, but like, okay, this is the 9th grade, second week of 9th grade.
What happened to junior high? She says that there was a problem.
Words were thrown back and forth. And just, like when we would change PE, I was made fun of because I was big-chested in junior high. They would all make fun of me when I changed in PE and, you know, but stuff like that, name calling, and it went back and forth. And then it quit because we had to sign a contract.
Who signed a contract?
Both of us did, stated that we would not talk or be around each other. And then I changed my PE class because I wasn't supposed to be around her. They changed my PE class.
So they changed your class?
And they changed my class. And then we were coming out of art, and this is the 9th grade. And we were coming out of art, and I did not push the chair into her. I was on the other side. She was on this side. I was on this side. I was nowhere near her. But we were coming out of art class. I had tripped over her foot. I didn't fall, but I had turned around. She had kicked me in the leg. So I had turned around, and words were shared back and forth, you know. Books were dropped. We were pushing each other back and forth. No heads were hit up against the wall. That I know we were hitting, you know, and a girl broke it up, and we had our witness, but she didn't come in because she was scared to. But she was...
Don't tell me what your witness was not here was going to tell me. Becky, were you suspended from school?
I was kicked out of school.
As a result of this incident?
As a result of this incident.
Did you ever go back to the school after you
No,
were
I did
kicked
not.
out? Did you ever go to the area of the school? Look at me. Did you ever go to the area of the school after you were kicked out?
No, I did not. I did the one time with my friend Heather to go pick up her sister from school with her mom. And that was the only time.
Uh-huh. Did you ever call her Barbie something?
Oh, when we were in high school, junior high, Barbie.
What about when you were in the 9th grade?
No, there was no name calling. I quit doing that because I got in trouble for it. I got yelled at it and stuff like that, and I didn't do that after that.
Why did you call her this name when you were in junior high, which...
Oh, it wasn't just me. It was,
I'm not interested in anybody else, Becky. I'm just interested in you. Why did you call her... She says you called her Barbie bitch.
No, I didn't.
Why did you use the term Barbie in referring to her at all?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I don't know.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
Oh, sure you do.
It was just a name.
Well, it means something, Becky.
Probably because she's got long blonde hair.
And it wasn't said nicely. It wasn't said, you know, you look so sweet, you look terrific, you look like a Barbie doll. Right?
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This is the only fight my child's been in years. I can't see where it's anything criminal.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lucille Meyer says her 15-year-old daughter, Heather, suffered severe injuries when George Grumsh's daughter, Rebecca, assaulted her in school. Rebecca says she didn't start it.
Did you have a school suspension hearing, Becky?
I don't think so.
Well, when they transferred you to another school.
I was just out of the school, and then
what do you mean
I went
you were
to
just
Tennessee. I went to Tennessee after the fight and stuff. And I went to school out there.
Just a second. What day of the week was this fight?
I don't remember. Friday.
Friday. When did you go to Tennessee?
Like 2 weeks later.
Did you go to school for those 2 weeks?
No.
Why not?
Because I really, honestly, I don't know. Because I got kicked out of school. I was expelled from the schools, from that school.
Step up, sir. I'm going to ask you some very important questions. Just listen. Does she live with you?
Yes.
Did you get a call from the school?
About the fight, yes.
Were you told to come to school with your daughter?
Yeah, I met with the assistant principal.
Okay. And that was after the fight?
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened as a result of that meeting?
I sent her to go visit her mother for a couple weeks. She was pretty distraught. She was hurting. So I sent her to her mother's for a couple weeks. And in turn, she ended up being operated on, and I brought her back home. She had stomach problems, and I brought her back.
Mm-hmm. Is this the first time your daughter's had trouble in school?
A Not really. She's had a little bit of trouble with nothing like this.
But she's had trouble in school.
Yes, ma'am.
She's had trouble. I'm not talking about her academic grades. I'm talking about with fighting.
She's had a couple fights.
Right.
Nothing.
Now, nothing as serious as this.
No.
But they started a while ago, right?
Well, this is way back in school, yes, ma'am.
They started a while ago. What have you done to try to address this? You have a young lady who has had problems in the past with fighting in school. What have you done to try to address it?
Everything I could.
Like what?
She's gone to doctors.
You mean to psychiatrists, psychologists?
Yes, ma'am.
How long has she been in therapy?
Oh, on and off for quite a while.
Have they come to any decision as to why she acts aggressively?
She's attention deficit disorder. She's been on medication for it, and she seemed to grow out of it. I mean, she doesn't fight with everybody. You know, believe it, it's just a rare occasion with her. She's just not. She's not a fighter.
Well, she is a fighter, sir. I mean,
Well,
I had 5 children, and I will tell you that they got into a lot of trouble. But they didn't get into trouble hitting other people. And your daughter has had that kind of problem, which is one of the reasons that you had her in therapy, I assume.
Not for fighting, ma'am, no.
Well, you should have. Because it's not normal for a young lady to become physical. That's not right.
Well, ma'am, Your Honor, my other daughter, who's living with me now, came back from Tennessee. She got in fights. She was attacked. It happens in school.
Is your name Grumsha?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Grumsha, it doesn't happen in school. It happens if there are 30 million children in school in this country at any one time. It is a minuscule number of children who are involved in fighting, and an even more minuscule number of girls that are involved in fighting. So you can't tell me, you can't say to yourself, well, it happens in school. It doesn't happen in school. You know, girls can be nasty, they can be cutting, they can be gossipy, you know. But I don't buy your daughter's version of these events. I think that she didn't like this young lady for a long time.
No, that's not what it was.
Oh, yeah, I think that that's what it was.
No, it wasn't.
Time.
I'll admit to be teasing her, but she's not sweet and innocent like she right now shows to be. She's got a mouth on her too.
I don't doubt that, madam. But I don't doubt that she can respond to you. But I think that you were teasing her, whether you were jealous, maybe, envious for some reason, didn't like the way she looked, trying to show off for your friends, whatever reason it was. According to these medical reports, she was injured very badly.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Didn't anybody come and try to stop this when it was happening?
One girl did stop it, but I was unconscious when she stopped it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lucille Meyer says her 15-year-old daughter, Heather, suffered severe injuries when George Grumsha's daughter, Rebecca, assaulted her in school. Rebecca says she didn't start it.
You want to tell me about how long you were out of school?
Me? I went back to school the next week because the doctor told me to.
So you were out of school for a week?
No. I went back to school the weekend after it happened.
Okay, so you went back to school on Monday?
Yeah, but I had to stay at a drill team for at least 4 months after it because...
What's drill team? Explain that.
It's color guard, it's flags for band, and...
Why did you have to stay at a drill team?
Because I couldn't lift the flag because my neck and my shoulders hurt too bad.
Were you in treatment during that 4-month period?
Yes, I had treatment from physical therapists for my knees, and I've gone to orthopedic surgeons for my back, and I just started going to a chiropractor.
All right, Ms. Meyer, could you step up, please? Can you tell me what your out-of-pocket medical expenses were?
Our total is $5,141.77.
And what is not covered by insurance?
This is everything that wasn't covered by insurance.
That was not covered by
Yes,
insurance?
this is not covered by insurance. I calculated everything that was not covered.
Let me see that, please.
Sorry.
I see that there are bills here from a dentist. What happened to your mouth?
It threw my jaw off alignment and pushed it back and wore away at the cartilage. I have to wear a jaw splint before it will restabilize my mouth.
Tell me about this jaw splint that you have to wear.
Do you want to see it?
Let me see. And you didn't have to wear that before?
No.
None of the TMJ specialist, none of that was covered by insurance. That was strictly out of my pocket.
It's more than a pushing. Do you understand that? Do you understand that, madam?
Yes.
This is more than a little pushing. Didn't anybody come and try to stop this when it was happening?
Some people tried to, but they told me they were afraid because I asked some people I knew. And one girl did stop it, but I was unconscious when she stopped it.
You mean you had actually passed out?
I was passed out.
Where were the teachers?
The teacher came out a while after because they had slapped me to wake me up. They had woken me up and carried me into the classroom. It happened outside of.
Looks like you've been to see a lot of doctors.
I did.
You have to wear that plate in your mouth all the time?
Yes.
You have pain in the morning when you wake up?
I always have pain.
In your jaw?
Mm-hmm. My jaw and my neck.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Listen, you understand that the maximum that I can award you is $5,000. I quite frankly don't know why you have elected to sue in a small claim situation where the maximum is $5,000. As far as I'm concerned, this young lady is not only responsible for your unreimbursed medical bills, she is also responsible for pain and suffering and whatever long-term physical problems you're going to have. I'm not questioning that. I'm not here to produce more litigation for other courts.
We are also going to criminal court.
I understand, Mr. Grumshaw, that you are, I assume, a single parent raising
Yes, ma'am,
a
I
daughter. Daughter has been in your custody, and I gather from what you tell me, sir, that you have tried to address some of the problems that you've seen with her ADD, seeing a therapist, being on medication. She went out of control. This wasn't a pushing and shoving.
Your Honor, could I say something, please?
Sure.
When she came home after this scuffle, she complained of stomach aches. She ended up getting operated on for a blockage in intestines, which was caused by adhesions to her appendicitis. I didn't.
That has nothing to do with this fight, sir.
I didn't.
That has nothing to do with this fight, sir. The fact that she added adhesions to her appendicitis when she went down to Tennessee and she was operated on 2 weeks later. You don't get adhesions in 2 weeks. Mr. Grumshaw, don't make 2 months. Don't make excuses, sir.
Not excuses.
Don't make excuses, sir. Your daughter caused some serious damage. She knows she caused serious damage.
Well,
she knows she can't look at me and tell me she didn't provoke
I got
this.
into a fight with her.
You instigated it and you hurt her seriously, either because you are harboring an old grudge for something that dated back to junior high school. But whatever it is, you lost control. And you have to pay for it. Judgment in the case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next...
On Grotman Pop versus Longo. Step forward, please.
21-year-old dancer Stephanie Puff and her boyfriend Eric Grotman are suing their former friend, dancer Suzanne Longo. They claim Suzanne threw their possessions at a dumpster when she mistakenly thought Stephanie was sleeping with Suzanne's boyfriend.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. It's case number 232, Your Honor, on the calendar in the matter of Grotman Puff versus Longo. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
All right. Miss Longo, it is alleged by both of these plaintiffs that you destroyed their property and locked them out of an apartment that the three of you were sharing. You seem to acknowledge in your answer that you did, in fact, lock them out of the apartment, and you did, in fact, take their property and throw it in a dumpster. Is that right?
Yeah. But they didn't live there. It's my apartment. They didn't give me a dime for rent.
Doesn't make any difference. They were living there with you, and you seem to feel as if you had some right to do that. You want to explain it to me?
Well, Stephanie went to San Francisco behind my back to my boyfriend's house and thought that she could still be my friend after that. And I was angry, and I called up there, and I found out just to talk to Brad. And so I just threw her stuff in the dumpster because I was and she never was my friend. I went out of my way for her. I've done so many things for her. And she goes, my boyfriend.
How long did you live there?
I was staying there approximately 2 weeks.
And this is your boyfriend?
Yes, it is.
What property did she destroy?
She threw away most of the clothes I own and several pairs of shoes and a very expensive cellular telephone.
We have a list of...
I do, and I also have several receipts.
My God, I couldn't be so specific about what I had in my house as you are. How do you know that these were things that you had there? 6 pairs of socks? 15 pairs of panties? How do you know that?
I'm sure there were more than 6 pairs of socks. I just estimated 6 pairs of socks. There's probably things that are missing that I can't remember.
You had taken none of your property with you?
I had several things with me. A bag.
We just done 3 loads of laundry, and they're all at her house, not to mention a closet full of stuff hanging up that was inside of her home.
Where were you when all this was going on?
I was in Los Angeles with a friend, and she was in San Diego where we all live. And she was in San Francisco, I was in LA, and she had assumed that since she went to San Francisco without Suzanne, that she had done it maliciously to sleep with her boyfriend, when in all actuality she was heading to Reno and just got too tired on the trip and decided to stay in San Francisco. And they were going to stay at her witness's house, at her brother's house, and they couldn't wake him up or that he wasn't home, so they decided to stay at this gentleman Brad's house. So she said, we can stay there, because we were just there 2 weeks ago. Brad said, no problem, and they stayed there.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
There was not a closet full of things, and they did not stay with me for 2 weeks straight. They stayed with me for 1 or 2 days at a time, and there was exactly 2 bags of clothes, and that is all.
What about a phone?
Oh,
cellular phone. She said that you...
I never saw a cellular phone. I never saw a cellular phone.
Well, you were in pretty much of a rage.
Yeah, I was.
Huh?
Yeah.
Well, then you have to pay for it.
It could have been in their stuff, and I could have, thrown it away. It could have been in the bag already. There was some clothes hanging up, and there was clothes already in a bag, and I took the clothes that were hanging up and put them in another bag, and I took them and I chucked them in the dumpster because,
Miss Longo.
Yeah,
just a second, Miss Longo. You have to pay for that. You can't do that. I mean, you called your boyfriend's house.
I know what I did legally was wrong.
Okay. You called your boyfriend's house. Nobody admitted to you that they were there sleeping together. She has her own boyfriend. I mean, you may not have liked the fact that she went there and stayed at your boyfriend's house without your permission, but you assumed that they were sleeping together. Nobody acknowledged that to you, did they?
His roommate told me.
I don't believe that.
His name's Mark.
I don't believe that. Why would anybody do that? Why would anybody stir up trouble?
I don't understand why she went there behind my back.
That's not the issue.
Understand.
That's not the issue. I mean, he gives a perfectly plausible explanation. The 3 of you had stayed there before. Is that right? If you want to act impulsively, Miss Longo, then you have to pay for it. Your clothes are worth how much, sir?
Mine were about $491 or so. I had some
well, that's
shoes.
not a lot. Women's clothes are usually much more expensive.
Yeah. He had like 2 shirts. That's about it.
What
clothes did you have there, sir?
Liar.
I have them on the list. I have.
Tell me what clothes you had there.
I don't recall. It's been 2 months. I had a dress shirt. I had a pair of Airwalk tennis shoes, a pair of flip-flops, a dress shirt that I had.
We've talked about the dress shirt twice. She's going to pay, but she's not going to provide you with a new wardrobe.
No, I understand.
Go ahead, keep going.
And I had the battery for the cellular phone that I purchased. It's a StarTAC. It's one of those little tiny flip phones.
Right, and how much was that?
The battery's $225. The phone was $600.
The phone was $600. Who spent $600? Who?
I made really good money this year, so I bought her a phone.
You bought her a $600 phone and paid $600 for it without a service contract?
I work for the company.
That's it.
I work for GT Mobile, and I made $70,000 in 3 months.
Just to say, that's not what I'm asking you, sir. There isn't a moron in this country that spends $600 for a phone without getting the phone for practically nothing, so that they can. So all you have to do is sign up for a couple of years worth of service, and then you don't spend $600 for a phone. Maybe you spend $200 for a phone.
It was a $1,000 phone, and we got it reduced. It was one of the very small StarTAC cellular phones. You're right. You can get a very large phone for free.
Not a very large.
Okay,
sir.
you can get an okay-sized phone for free. I got her an extremely small telephone.
Well, why didn't she take this extremely small telephone with her when she was traveling?
I had a car phone.
I also bought her a car phone that's mounted in her car. So she took that one because it had roaming capabilities to go into San Francisco. The little small one didn't, so there was no need to bring it. She didn't need 2 phones.
I don't know if I believe you. I don't know if I believe that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think you need some more plastic surgery and another boob job. See, mine are real.
And later today,
So you called Child Protective Services, sir, because he was using vulgar language.
Well, he was exposing himself to the girls, too.
Judge Judy. 21-year-old dancer Suzanne Longo admits to throwing Stephanie Pop's clothing into a dumpster. Suzanne says she felt betrayed by her former friend when she thought Stephanie was sleeping with her boyfriend.
I don't know if I believe this phone business. Clothes, I believe. Phone, I don't believe.
Your Honor, can I?
Yeah, sure.
My witness, Ashley, she came to the apartment the night we left so I could pick up a few of my things. She was there. You can ask her.
This one?
Yes.
This is Ashley.
Yes.
What do you know about the phone? Right, that you remember specifically that night. Look at me.
She had the phone there. She put it in the bag with all the rest of her clothes. There's 3 bags of clothes in the living room.
Where did she take the phone from?
From the bedroom. I guess she had other stuff in the bedroom. I don't know.
Just a minute. She took the phone from the bedroom and she put it in one of the bags that were in the living room?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yeah.
What was the phone doing in the bedroom?
I had my own closet in her room.
Yeah.
And we have the phone plugged in to charge it.
Yeah.
And I thought about taking the phone, and I thought, I don't think it'll work in there, so I put it in a bag of clothes to leave it. I took the things I had, and we left.
Baloney. Baloney.
The phone has been shut off. The phone number's been shut off effective July 30th when this happened.
That's fine. Forget the phone. Forget the phone. It doesn't make sense to me that you take a phone out of a bedroom and unplug it where it's being charged and put it in a bag that's sitting in the living room and you're going away. It seems to me if you're going away for a couple of days and if your phone is in your bedroom, you leave it in the bedroom. When it happens to be the most expensive thing. Listen, there isn't a question in my mind that you destroyed your property. This is not a windfall.
Can I say one thing?
What?
She had exactly this much space in my closet. And this is how big it was. And this is where the 3 bags sat of clothes. That is all. She didn't have the whole closet. I had my stuff in the rest of the closet.
She said the stuff was in the living room.
Liar.
She said the stuff was in the living room.
Your Honor, I had clothes in the living room, and I
think it
had
was
my
in the
own
closet.
closet. She has 2 closets in her bedroom. One
Is there
closet was
differing
mine,
stories here?
and one closet was hers. And we had just done laundry, so I had 3 bags of laundry in the living room.
Okay. Aside from your 2 dress shirts, sorry, the 1 dress shirt, and then you said you had another dress shirt. You had 2 or 1 dress shirt?
I believe there's 1 dress shirt there.
Okay, so it's a 1 dress shirt, a pair of flip-flops, and sneakers. What else did you have?
I don't recall. When I made up the list 2 months ago when we were trying to do this in August, so I don't.
Well, that doesn't sound like a lot of clothes from somebody who was living there full-time, sir.
I wasn't living there full-time, man. She was, and I had just spent the night there a couple of times when she was there.
He had a pair of his jeans that I had bought him there, too. They're
right.
expensive jeans from
Lucky's
Nordstrom's.
brand.
Can I be reimbursed for rent since they were living there?
No.
Even though I don't remember her living there?
Just a second. Did you have an agreement with them to pay rent?
No, I let her stay there for 1 day
Then
at
you
a
don't.
time.
Then you had no contract with her to pay rent.
She stayed there for exactly 5 days.
Listen to me. You have to have an arrangement to pay rent, an agreement. And if she doesn't pay, then you have a lawsuit. Do you understand?
Okay.
Good. All right. Sir, you look like a very natty dresser, which means you're a very good dresser. So I'm going to say that you had 1 good shirt, 1 good pair of flip-flops, and a nice pair of jeans. You're going to get $200. Madam,
yes.
I looked over your whole list.
May I say something, Your Honor?
Sure.
She had taken all of her clothes that were in the closet, everything she owned, and put them in the car, filled up her trunk and her backseat with her clothes. She had been tired of her clothes being in her car and living out of her car. So approximately 2 or 3 days before this had happened, she said, you know what, I'm tired of everything being wrinkled. Suzanne said, no problem, hang everything up. So she brought everything up, hung everything up. I took home the dirty laundry and got it back.
I'm telling you, please give me a break. This case, $200 for, what is your name, Mr. Puff?
Grotman.
You're Grotman. You're Puff?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You're going to get $2,000 to replace your wardrobe, madam, and you're getting $200 to replace your shirt and your dungarees and your flip-flops. That's all.
Oh, you're excused. You may step out.
Quite frankly, I think she needs help.
Your face still has craters in it. Why don't you get some plastic surgery? How about a nose job?
And now the next case.
Bodies on Beckman versus Hunter. Step forward, please.
42-year-old service technician Gary Beckham is suing his neighbors Chris and Jamie Hunter, claiming their 3-year-old daughter Tiffany scratched his truck with a knife. The Hunters are countersuing Mr. Beckham for harassment.
That is the villain.
That is the villain, yes.
Cures him. However, according to your complaint, Mr. Beckman, this little girl over here is 3 years old, your daughter, took a knife or a sharp instrument and damaged your car.
Correct.
You don't deny that you did that.
No, I do not.
However, for some reason, you don't feel as if you're responsible for it.
It's not that I don't feel responsible for it. The initial lawsuit that he filed was for $1,650 and for 5 days of a rent-a-car, which I felt was a little out of line.
Okay. So it's not so much the issue of whether you are responsible, it's the amount he's suing for.
This is correct, Your Honor.
All right, so let's deal with that first. Sir, do you have the receipts for having the car fixed?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
I'd like to see them, please. Sir, explain this to me, all right?
Okay. I originally sued for $1,650. That was the higher complaint, or the higher estimate that I got to fix my car. Everybody was telling me that it could not be buffed out. I do have pictures of the damage.
But it was.
When it was all said and done, I had a limit, Your Honor, and I had to turn it in. I was 2 days away from turning it in when the damage got done, okay? They gave me a 30-day extension to get the thing fixed. I took it down to Crown Dodge. I says, fix it. Buff it out, paint it, whatever you need to do.
Okay.
I need to get rid of my car. They came back and said it was buffed out, fine. The dealership bought the car back. And so now I amended my complaint to $75, which was the cost of the buff out.
Oh, that's easy. See that? Out of pocket $75.
Correct.
Very good. So we've taken care of his claim against you for $75 from $1,650. So far, you're ahead of the game. Now, you have a counterclaim against him for $2,000. You want to explain this to me?
Well, Your Honor, just shortly after this incident happened on the 13th, a lady shows up at my door. She's from Child Protective Services. Somebody has called and filed this report here, anonymously, about my care and conduct of my 2 children. Now, when this incident happened with Mr. Beckham's truck, I was at work. They're generally really good kids, but this woman saw that. She knew that we took good care of our children. She closed this case, finding it unfounded, but noted that the day that the claim was filed, on the 15th for this incident, is the same day that that anonymous phone call to PSSA was made. There have been countless number of vulgar, rude, insulting...
Well, let me start with this. Did you call in this report to Child Protective Services, sir?
Me and about 5 other people have called Child Protective Services.
You called?
Yes, I have called.
Did you call on the date that this happened with your car?
No, I did not.
When did you call, sir?
It had to be 2 weeks later.
What made you call Child Protective Services 2 weeks later?
Just the vulgar language that I heard come out of their older son. He was talking to some girls, vulgar language. Something needed to be said.
When you're talking about their older son, you're talking about this little boy here?
Yes, Tyler.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The way he was talking to them, the vulgar language he was using, okay, that was conduct unbecoming of a 6-year-olds.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 42-year-old service technician Gary Beckham says Chris and Jamie Hunter's 3-year-old daughter Tiffany scratched his truck with a knife. The Hunters claim Mr. Beckham continually harasses them.
So you called Child Protective Services, sir, because he was using vulgar language?
Among other things, yes.
Well, give me the other things.
Well, he was exposing himself to the girls, too. And that is not conduct of a 6-year-old boy.
Tell me what you mean by he was exposing himself, what you saw, sir.
I saw him take himself and show it to these 2 little girls. I even talked to the fathers of the 2 little girls. And the way he was talking to them, the vulgar language he was using, okay, that was conduct unbecoming of a 6-year-old. So I had to let somebody, in my good conscience, I have 2 boys, I have to let somebody know. So I called PSSA.
Well, what about the fathers of the 2 little girls?
I have no idea what they did. None whatsoever. I'm pretty sure that they were upset. They live right next door to these guys.
How many calls had been called into Child Protective Services?
This is the only one that you have any note that I know anything about, Your Honor. And Mr. Beckham, nor 2 other girls' father, have never come and spoke to me or my husband. And this is the first we've ever heard of this.
So what happened after this?
The case
was closed.
The case was closed and unfounded. It's just a constant and endless battle that we're bad to our children. We're not taking care of them. It's been one thing after another, all resolving back to a 3-year-old scratching this truck. And I just didn't feel it was right.
Well, the fact that it may not have been right does not make it the subject of a lawsuit. Mr. Beckham.
Yes.
Let me tell you what I have a problem with, sir.
Okay.
You know I take child abuse, child neglect very seriously. The fact that you allegedly saw this little boy do what you have described is not child abuse, and it's not necessarily neglect.
Okay.
It is the kind of thing that a normal person would, if there was a normal relationship between neighbors, result in you ringing their doorbell and saying, this is what I saw your little boy doing. You might want to have a talk with him. And you know, if you have children, sir,
yes,
you know that kids do that sort of thing. That doesn't necessarily mean that the child is being abused or neglected by his parents. So when you use Child Protective Services for other kind of relief, that takes away caseworkers from doing their legitimate work. That means the time they spent going out on this nonsense, they can't be investigating legitimate cases. That's wrong.
Well, you know, Your Honor, when you see somebody exposing himself to two other little girls.
You're talking about a 6-year-old, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Talking about a 6-year-old.
I let the only appropriate people that I knew, other than management of the trailer park, which...
No, you let the right people know about it. You let the fathers of the two little girls know what you had seen.
Correct.
So that they could take appropriate steps, which means that they could have come to speak to these people. They could have said to their two little girls, I don't want you to play with that little boy anymore. They could have taken specific precautions. What you did was wrong.
Okay.
Pay for your own car. This lawsuit and the counterclaimant dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out. You go out the back door to your right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next judge...
Keeman versus Tolbert. Step forward, please.
Restaurant manager Phyllis Keeman says her employee, 16-year-old Bethany Tolbert, called her foul names and split her head open with a telephone. Bethany claims it was an accident.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 184 on the calendar in the matter of Keeman versus Tolbert.
Thank you, Bert.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, sir. Ma'am, have a seat.
According to these papers, Ms. Keeman, the defendant, this young lady, assaulted you at a fast food restaurant where you are a manager and she was an employee.
Correct.
When did this happen?
On December the 26th, approximately 8 p.m. in Cincinnati, Ohio on Vine Street.
How long had you been working at this restaurant?
I was a substitute manager, but I had worked there maybe 3 or 4 times. My main home as a manager was in Tri-County.
And how long have you been working for this establishment?
2 years, 3 years approximately.
And what kind of work did you do there?
I was just on the register.
You mean you were a cashier?
Uh-huh.
How long had you been working there?
I had worked there for about 3 months, and then I was like on a leave. I didn't work for about a month, and then I had just came back. It was like my 3rd day back.
3rd day?
Mm-hmm.
Had you met her before?
No.
So, Ms. Keeman, would you tell me what happened on this day in December?
On December the 26th, I was a substitute manager at Hardee's Restaurant, and we always have a main duty of like working on the cash register and secondary duties, sweep the floor, get iced tea ready, and such priorities. I had given her task to do, and she was on the phone. Beth
You're her
Tolbert.
mother?
Yes, I'm your mother. And I gave Beth Tolbert her duties, and she was on the phone. I came back a little bit later after cleaning the restrooms and doing some of her chores, and she was still on the phone. And I repeated that she must get off the phone. I thought maybe I'll give her a break because I'm a benevolent manager. And I gave her another chance to please do her duties and get off the phone. She stated she wanted to call her mother, but I don't know who she called. And there was a lot of profanity and a great deal of yelling on front line. As a manager...
Okay, so let me stop you right there. Yelling and profanity by whom?
Beth Tolbert.
And who was she yelling at?
Somebody on the telephone telling them what a mean vulgarity word I was, making her do something other than just ring on the cash register.
And where is the phone situated as opposed to where the patrons are?
The phone is situated by drive-through, and she was on front line. She had to go over and use the phone behind an wall, like, to use the phone.
But she was supposed to be on the cash register.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So she couldn't be on the cash register if she was on the phone?
That's correct.
Well, after there was a lot of profanity, did she finally hang up the phone?
I asked her to please clock out. I gave her a choice.
Clock out meaning?
Meaning that she should leave the restaurant, and that's all. She would be paid for the day that she could go home. She had a choice, either get off the phone or clock out. So I finally asked her to clock out. I said, if you don't leave, I will have to call the police, because at that point it's criminal trespassing. And we are taught in our managerial duties that you exercise this to the employees, that they do have other duties, and that when they're off the clock, they could use the phone, but not when they're supposed to be doing their work assignments. That's my managerial right. And I asked her, I said, would you please clock out? And she went to the cash register to clock out. She said, give me that phone, I'll call the police. And I had it up to my ear and was ready to call the police. And I faked it the first time, hoping she'd shape up and quit the profanity.
What do you
and that
mean
would be the
faked
end.
it?
I called the police, but I didn't get to talk to anybody because one of the employees unplugged the receiver and I was talking to no one. So, and by that time she said, give me the phone, I will call the police. And I saw her heave back with the receiver of the phone and I ducked. But unfortunately, I did not duck far enough. And I was hit with the phone up here. I didn't want to get it in the eye and I saw it coming. And there was blood all over in my...
Right in the front of your head?
Yes, see the scar.
Could you step up, please? My eyes aren't as good as they used to be.
Likewise.
All right, there's about a scar that appears to be about 2.5 inches long. This is the mark right here that you're talking about?
Yes, and it was 3 deep, and I had a picture.
Did you see this? Did you see the scar on her forehead?
No, I haven't.
Well, would you step back, Bird? Would you accompany the plaintiff and let the defendant and her mother look at that scar? Okay. You had stitches in your head?
Yes.
How many?
I had 12 to 14 on the top layer, and they told me it was 3 deep. I have no idea what the total is. I have medical reports.
How long were you out of work?
I was out of work. I was told to stay off by 3 weeks. I was told after 8 days.
Don't tell me what you were told. Just tell me how long you stayed out of work. 3 weeks?
4 or 5 days.
And tell me what kind of pain, if any, you had in your head.
I have never had headaches in my life, and I have one every day since I've been hit. I am also losing my eyesight in this eye, which the doctors are watching me very closely. I have all my medical reports, Your Honor.
Now, you were arrested, is that correct?
No.
Were you taken into police custody at any time?
No, I wasn't.
Are you telling me that there was no trial in any other court? Because according to these papers, there was trial in another court.
Yes, there was a trial, but I'm saying I didn't get arrested or anything. The police didn't take me.
How did you get to court, madam?
We got a letter in the mail.
It was a hearing. She filed a juvenile complaint. Ms. Keeman did it. And that's where we went to court for a hearing, an assault charge.
Okay, well, that's a trial. Hearing is a trial.
Yes.
It's just that you are 16, is that right?
17.
17?
She was 16 when it occurred.
All right, let's hear your version of what happened.
Okay, when I got there, Phyllis was with another manager there. And she was a really nice person when the other manager was there. And like if you get a break or something, no matter what, when people come in, you have to go back to the register. And so and I had a sandwich, and the whole time I had to keep coming back and forth. I couldn't go.
Couldn't go where?
I couldn't go to my break. I couldn't eat my sandwich because people kept coming in. So then the manager had finally left, and there was no more, it was like we were completely dead. And I went ahead and ate my sandwich. And then Phyllis, she got mad because she didn't know that I had asked the other manager right before she had left or anything. And so that, that's kind of how the attitude started towards me. And the phone rang, and she answered the phone, and it was for me, and she told me I could use it. And I got on it, and
Who was on the phone?
It was just one of my friends. He asked, "What are you doing?" "Nothing, working." And then she runs back, "Get off the phone now. Here, you can't be sitting here talking about me and all this stuff." And I hadn't said a thing about her. And, I got off the phone, and I was told to sweep behind the counter. So I said, okay. And while I was sweeping and everything, she was over by the bathrooms, just screaming something at us, and we couldn't hear her. And
what do you mean you couldn't hear her? If she was screaming, how could you not hear her?
We could hear her yelling, but we couldn't hear what she was saying.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's allowed to give you an attitude, madam. She's the boss, applesauce.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Restaurant manager Phyllis Keeman is suing her former employee Bethany Tolbert, claiming she split her head open. Bethany says it was an accident.
You said she was screaming at you, but how do you know she was screaming at you if she was screaming at all if you couldn't hear her?
No, I'm saying that she was yelling. She was just yelling something towards us when we didn't know what she was saying. And then she came up to the front. She finally came up, and she got directly in front of me, and she screamed it again. And so
she screamed what?
She screamed to get over and mop this effing floor now. And so I heard her, but I said, "What you say?" Because because I was kind of upset because she was right in my face. And so she said, "Yo, you didn't hear that?" And so she repeated it again. And I told her I was sweeping the floor, and I said, so you really don't have to speak to me that way. And she said, "Oh, I'll talk to you how the F I want to talk to you," and all this stuff. And so that's when me and her started arguing. And so she told me to clock out. And the thing with that job is that on any hour, there's like a print off that goes off, and it's 5 minutes before and 5 minutes after, and you can't clock out within that 10 minutes. And it was 8 o'clock on the dot, and I couldn't clock out. And I told her, and she said, so she picked up the phone and said she was calling the police. Then She hung up the phone. She got on the phone and said she had an insubordinate employee and she wanted her arrested and hung up the phone. That's all she said. And so, and I kept telling her, you know, I couldn't clock out. She's like, get out of here. She's screaming and everything, acting like I was going to hurt her or something. And I'm like 12 feet away from her. So I said, well, look, I said, you need to call them back and tell them that I have 5 minutes, and I'll leave in 5 minutes, because we have always been, we were told that we're not allowed to let any managers clock on our, like ringing on our registers. We're not allowed to let anybody clock us out, and no matter what the reason is. So I couldn't clock out, and I didn't know her either, and so, you know, I said, well, I'll call them. I said, I'll call him back. And so I went and I picked up the phone. The phone was on the receiver. I picked up the phone. She grabbed me and started shaking me. And that's how we were pulling each other like this. And she finally pulled the phone out of my hand, and that's how she got hit.
Show me with your mother how that happened. Let's say your mother is the plaintiff. Show me, Ms. Tolbert, because that's what you said in your answer. You just showed me this motion that you were tugging over the phone. So show me how she got hit on the top of the head.
Okay, she's shorter than me. It's like the way.
Use the cup as a phone.
All right. Okay, so this will be the phone, and I'm holding it. And I'm pulling it like this, and she's holding me here.
Just, would you do that, please?
What I do, I grab the phone.
Okay, she's grabbing me here and on my wrist.
Mm-hmm.
And we're pulling back and forth like this. And that's how she got hit, and she finally pulled it out of my
That's
hand.
how she got hit, on the top of her head?
Yeah, she's shorter than me.
Now, you weren't there, is that right?
That's correct, I wasn't.
Do you know anything about this case?
Yes, ma'am.
From your daughter?
From the testimonies that I've heard, all of them.
I've heard the testimony. I don't have to rely on anybody else's hearing the testimony of the witnesses. I'm relying on common sense. You do not get, if you're struggling over a telephone, a gash to the top of the head that's 3 inches long. You don't get that. I've heard this lady testify. It doesn't sound to me as if this is the kind of lady who was going to use the F word over and over again in speaking to your daughter. I want to tell you that. It just doesn't strike me that way. Now, I have just a couple of other questions for you. You took a leave, you said, from this job for a month. Why?
I was sick.
What was the matter with you?
I had migraines, and I was having some stomach problems and stuff.
How many jobs have you had?
I've been working since I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
So one job I worked at for 2 years.
What happened to that job?
I quit.
Why?
Because it was old to me. I found a better one.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's a very good actor, and that's what her really job should be.
And later today.
Just a second. I know what your argument is. I'm very smart. This is not a complicated case. You know, this is not the Scopes trial.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Restaurant manager Phyllis Keeman is suing her former employee, Bethany Tolbert, claiming she split her head open. Bethany says it was an accident.
You assaulted this lady. She was your boss. Let me tell you something about bosses. And your mother, who takes your side in this case, even though she wasn't there, better listen very carefully. Life is sometimes not fair. And when you raise children, you're supposed to raise children to understand that there are certain authority figures. Like you start out when you're a teacher in a school. As a teacher in a school, my mother always taught me that right or wrong, the teacher was right at that moment. When the teacher told me to do something, I did it. I may come home and complain to my mother later, but I don't tell the teacher to go take a walk. I learned that when I was 6, and I learned that when I was 20, and I taught that to my children. Is that what you learned, Bird?
That's what I learned.
And then you go through life and you have bosses. And sometimes you have good bosses, and sometimes you don't have good bosses. And sometimes they're nice people, and sometimes they're not so nice people. But while they're your bosses, you listen to them. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it, you say, I don't like this job, I'm leaving. What happened with your daughter is you didn't teach her that right from the beginning. Probably said to you, stand up for what you think is right to your teachers when you're 6 and to your boss when you're 16. It's not what happens. I've gone through life having a lot of bosses that I didn't like, who told me a lot of stupid things. And I knew that they were stupid when they told it to me. I did them until I got disgusted, and then I said, I'm going to find another job. That's what you do.
Excuse me, can I say something?
Sure.
Okay, I had no problem with whatever. When she was telling me to do things, I had no problem doing that. I mean, I've been working since I was 14. I can go ahead and do the work.
Are you telling me that she cursed you out using the F curse word?
She sure did.
I don't believe you. What do you think about that?
What
I don't believe you.
it?
I don't believe you.
I mean,
just like when you said in your answer, when she said to you, put down the phone or go and sweep the floor, you said to me, what did you say to me? Even though
You told me just now that you heard every word that she said. You gave her an attitude.
She gave me one.
She's allowed to give you an attitude, madam. She's the boss, applesauce.
Oh, I know she's the boss, but she can't curse at me
She's
like
the
that.
boss, applesauce. So you better work really hard because she's got a 3-inch scar. She's got headaches. You had no reason to assault her. She's suing you for pain and suffering, and she's going to get the money for pain and suffering that she's suing for. Judgment in this case is $5,000 for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll be back to it to your right, please.
And I feel sorry for the other employees that have to work under.
Versus Nelson. Step forward, please.
18-year-old student Brandon Rust says he and 5 other seniors rented a limo for their prom. He's suing 18-year-old Krista Nelson, claiming she didn't pay her share.
Not a difficult case. You had a senior prom, a senior ball. You decided to take a limousine.
All right, on May 31st, like you said, we had our senior ball. There were 3 couples, me, my girlfriend, Krista, her date, and...
Krista,
her date.
Me. Your date, Jeff, according to your papers.
Yes.
And her witness, Jason, and his date.
And this gentleman.
Yes.
So, did you know her date, Jeff?
No, I did not.
Who did you make your arrangement with to share the cost of this limousine?
It was me, Krista here, and Jason's date.
That's not true because it was 6 ways. You happened to be paying for Colette and Katie happened to be paying for Jason, but Jeff...
Oh, just a minute. I'm getting too complicated. Mr. Russ, you paid for the whole limousine.
Yes, I did.
And it came out to $175 per couple.
Yes, it did.
Correct. And my date was supposed to pay for it.
Just a second. You got your money from Jason.
Jason, yes, I did.
He gave you the $175.
Yes, he did.
Your problem is, Miss Nelson says that she's only paying for part of the limousine. She had a lousy time at the prom with Jeff. She's not talking to him anymore. And he didn't pay for his share. Is that the case?
That's the case with me, but my argument is that I never knew
Just a second. I know what your argument is. I'm very smart. This is not a complicated case. You know, this is not the Scopes trial. When you made arrangements for this limousine, did you speak to him or did Jeff speak to him?
I spoke to him.
Say nothing else. Just answer my questions. You spoke to him. Did he ever meet Jeff before the prom? When?
Yes. We met at Columbia Pool for a while, and then we went over to Colette's house for a while. He knew, it was clear that Jeff was paying for our portion of the limo.
Just a second. The arrangement was that each of the 3 couples would pay, and you made that initial arrangement with him. Is that right?
Correct.
And then you had a conversation with your date, Jeff.
Right.
Right, just a minute, right. And your conversation with your date, Jeff, was, are you going to pay for this limousine?
Correct.
And Jeff said yes.
Right. And I told Brandon.
That had nothing to do with Brandon. You're Brandon, right?
Yes.
Brandon Russ. Your original agreement with him was, when he arranged for this limousine, that your third was going to be paid.
Yes.
You then had a conversation with Jeff.
No. From the very beginning, we all sat down and made plans together that we were going to go. We contacted the limo place, everything.
Who's we?
All of us. We all got together and did it besides Jeff. Jeff was the only one who wasn't there.
Right.
But I told Brandon from the beginning that Jeff would be paying, that I was going to get Jeff to pay for our portion of the limo.
That's your problem.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Don't you hear what you're saying, madam? Jeff wasn't there when you made the arrangements. He relied on the fact that you, as his friend, were going to be responsible for a third of it. You later spoke to Jeff because Jeff wasn't there when you made these arrangements, according to your own statement. Look, you got to pay for your portion. You want to sue Jeff? Sue him. He shouldn't be out the money.
And I agreed.
Good. $175 for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Roll Mike Stipke, claiming he broke a table when he fell over in a drunken stupor at her daughter's birthday party. Mr. Stipke is countersuing for his medical bills.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 269 on the calendar in the matter of Bettis versus Stipke. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please. Have a seat.
You had a birthday party at your house for your daughter, Nicole?
And Christina.
And Christina.
We also celebrated 2 other children's birthday at that time.
And according to this complaint, one of the other children who was celebrating a birthday was the daughter of a friend of yours.
Yes.
Who brought this gentleman to the party.
Yes.
So you came, sir, as an invited guest
Yes, ma'am.
of this lady?
Yes.
Let's see how smart I am. Your claim is that while he was at the party, he was drunk?
Yes.
And he destroyed some furniture?
Yes.
Were you drunk?
No, ma'am. I had 3 or 4 beers at the most. They had other people drinking. Her sister and her husband were also drinking the beer.
Who cares about her sister and her brother? They didn't break furniture.
No, they did not.
Well, why'd you go to the birthday party and drink?
Nah, I just had a few beers.
Uh-huh. Why don't you tell me, sir, how it came about that you broke this furniture? Describe what happened to me, if you remember.
Diane had threw a piece of ice up to me.
Just a second. Diane, that's you.
Right.
Stand up there, Diane, because I found that interesting. So she threw what?
A piece of ice up in the air.
Ice.
Ice.
Where were you standing at this time?
On the patio.
On the patio.
Describe how you threw a piece of ice. How far were you standing apart?
3 feet.
Well, move over another foot.
I felt like this.
About that far? And you, what were you doing? Your hands weren't behind your back, sir. What were you doing? You're holding a beer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Make like you're holding a beer, right? All right.
And a cigarette.
And you're, what?
And a cigarette in the other hand.
Cigarette in the other hand?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Make like a cigarette in the other hand. Now, Diane, show me what you were doing.
I just tossed a piece of ice up.
An ice cube?
Yes. It was out of the ice chest. Actually, it was out of my cup, but Mike lifted his head up and he stepped
No, just
back.
you're going to show me. Toss the ice. Go ahead. Toss it. Go.
And when I went back, I hit the end of the table and went down and then busted my head open on the toy chest.
Just a second. I'm not interested with your head. I'm interested in the table. Right? You broke the table.
The end piece, yeah.
The end piece of the table.
Right.
Because you were acting like a fool at a children's birthday party. He had 3 or 4 beers. She's throwing ice cubes at you, and you're catching them in your mouth, right? And I say this to you, sir, because to add insult to injury, you filed a countersuit in this case. You're suing her because you fell and broke your head and split your head open. What does that have to do with her? What does that have to do with her?
That was her house, and I was on her property, and I went through pain and suffering to the deal.
So whose fault was that?
It was my fault.
So what are you suing her for?
For the pain and suffering I went through.
Why is your pain and suffering her problem? If you get it, listen to me, sir. If you get out of bed in the middle of the night, right, to go to the bathroom, and you stub your toe on a chair, and you break your toe, do you sue the chair manufacturer? Huh?
No.
No. Now, the table didn't have 3 or 4 beers and move. Right?
No.
So I'm really trying to understand what was in your mind when you filed this countersuit. Her lawsuit, I understand.
Okay.
Okay. That was easy.
Okay.
That was easy. Okay. Is that pretty much what happened?
In general, yes. We offered to call 911 or take him to the hospital. He refused.
No, that is not true.
Doesn't make any difference. I want to know about the table.
Okay. Basically, the table was broke on one side, and he broke a chair.
So did you have it fixed? Were you able to repair it?
We tried to get it fixed. They were not able to fix the table and the
How did he
chair.
break a chair?
He was sitting in it, and when he leant over to get a beer off the table, he broke the chair.
You broke the... Well, that happened before the table.
Right.
You remember that?
No, there was no chair broken, no.
You don't remember a broken chair?
No.
There was not a chair broken.
How was it broken? You have a picture of it?
Yes, we do. It's basically just a little metal hinge that fits into the grooves of the side of the chair. It's a folding chair, little wooden folding chair. And
so did you fix the folding chair?
No, there's nowhere to fix the metal piece.
Did the party continue on after this happened with this fall?
Once they left, the party did end, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
He fell backwards and I came watching over there and Mommy's friend and Diane, they tried to doctor him, but they rushed him to the hospital.
Thank you. Did you have a good time at your birthday party? You didn't.
Why not? Why not?
It's okay.
You can tell me. No, she's all right. She's all right. I won't ask her any more questions.
Thank you.
Evidently, she didn't have such a good time at the birthday party.
No. She does not want me to throw any more parties for her again because of what happened.
Why?
Because basically she seen him walking around drunk and fall down and shed blood all over at her birthday party.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I was told they were going to pay $50 each Sunday. I did not get any money, so I took matters into my own hands.
And later today,
I certainly wouldn't make damage in broad daylight with a neighbor walking outside in the street.
The police were there, and he fled.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 35-year-old Cynthia Bettis says Mike Stipke ruined her daughter's birthday party when he got drunk and broke a table. Mike says it was all an accident and is countersuing for medical bills.
How much is the table worth?
About $200.
Okay.
I have a letter from the lady who owns the table.
You borrowed the table from somebody else?
My in-laws did. They borrowed the table for the party.
Okay, well, it has to be replaced. And you have to pay for it. Don't be foolish.
I did offer to pay for it.
So then what are we doing here?
I asked for the money to be delivered, $50 every Sunday, and they agreed upon it, and it never came through.
I offered to write her a check in the whole full amount and have Mike pay me back because I live 3 blocks from him.
So? I never got that offer.
She says, I'm going away for the weekend. I'll call you when I get back. We'll make arrangements to happen. She didn't call.
Why don't you just drop off the check?
Why
don't
should
you
I
just
go
send
over
her
there?
the
She
check?
made it clear she didn't want me over there.
Why don't you just send the check in the mail? Say, I'm sorry this happened. Sorry
I
for
am
the
sorry it
birthday
happened,
party.
and I made that quite clear to her.
All right. Well, it's a very unfortunate circumstance. Sir, you understand that you owe $200. That's for the table. I mean, little girls who had a birthday party, one of them had a good time. The older one didn't. She probably understands a little bit more about what was going on. Certainly, you know that your countersuit has absolutely no merit. If you act like a fool, sometimes you get hurt. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $200.
Do I get the table?
Do you get the table?
Yeah.
No, you get the judgment.
Okay.
Parties are excused. Step out.
Yeah. What a jerk.
Back to you right, please.
It was an accident and it happened. I'm sorry that I broke the table.
Thank you. I'd like you to apologize to the kids that you ruined their party.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
And now the next case.
Parties on O'Cray versus Engler. Step forward, please.
ATM saleswoman Marlene Opray is suing her business associate Roger Engler, charging he vandalized her car. Roger says she's retaliating against him over a business deal gone bad.
All right, Miss Opray, you claim that the defendant vandalized your car.
Yes.
By keying it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Why would he do such a thing?
As retaliatory for not working with me any longer.
Tell me about that.
We just had a court case in San Francisco about 2.5 weeks ago to where he tried to say I owed him a sum of money for the month of June.
He was an employee of yours?
No, he was a self-contractor only if he were to sell ATM machines.
Okay, so he was an independent contractor.
Yes, Your Honor.
So he sued you last month.
And he lost because he didn't produce, he didn't make one sale.
Whatever. He lost.
That's right.
When was the car vandalized?
August 25th.
And when was the court case?
October 7th.
So the car was vandalized before the court case?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Did you report it vandalized?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Where was it vandalized? Tell me about it.
It was in my carport. My daughter saw him do it. And this is Linda, my daughter. Hi. And the police came immediately after he had done this, and he fled. If he hadn't done it, why would he flee from the police?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I have to tell you what he said in our last court case on October 7th when I told him I had 2 witnesses 2 weeks ago. And he says, nobody saw me do it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. ATM saleswoman Marlene Opray says her former business associate Roger Engler keyed her car, causing severe damage. Roger denies he did anything wrong.
You say, your mother says at least, that you actually observed him.
Yes, I did.
Tell me what you saw.
Your Honor, he came to the house around 8:30 or 9 in the morning. I answered the door, and this gentleman my mom was there. I asked who he was. He did not want to leave a name with me. I seen he had a white envelope in his hand. I said I was her daughter. I was more glad to give it to her, and he refused to give it to me. So I shut the door. I went in, I told my mom, she was in the shower at the time. My mom asked him to come back in 30 minutes, asked what he looked like, and this and that. I described him. She couldn't place him. So I went back and I told this gentleman. He wasn't too happy about it. He said he had come a long distance to give this to my mother. And I said, well, like I said, if you want to come back in 30 minutes. I shut my door. I went into my room. Not even 2 minutes later, I heard a screeching noise outside. It's right outside my bedroom window. There's a carport. My car was parked there as well as my mother's. I didn't have any clothes on because I answered the door. I was in my pajamas. I opened it up halfway. I went to go put my pants on to run out there to see what he was doing. He was kneeling down on the other side of my mom's car on the right rear tire. So I got my pants on. I ran out there. At that time, this gentleman was pulling away. I ran out after him. He kept going. He did see me. I saw him look in his rearview mirror. There was another gentleman walking in the park there where we live. He said this gentleman had parked there for a while there.
You can't tell me what the other gentleman said. So you actually saw him kneeling against your mother's car?
Yes, I did.
You did not actually see him scratch your mother's car?
I seen him kneeling there. I heard a noise.
You heard a noise
Yes.
and you saw him kneeling near the car?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Had you parked the car there the evening before?
Yes, I did.
And when you parked the car there, can you describe its condition to me?
It was good. I mean,
What
I'd
kind of a
been
car is it?
driving all day. I had not been out of the car. I'd been on a long trip. And I parked there about 11:30 at night. And, Your Honor, we have security at the park, so nobody came in.
Do you have pictures of the car?
Yes, I do.
May I see it, please?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Engler, I'll hear you, sir.
Okay. It's a nice story. Mostly none of it was true, but that's a nice story. Number one, we were partners. I had letters to show that we were business partners. We had gone on a number of trips together. We were supposed to share income and so on.
I'm not interested in the other lawsuit, sir.
No, I
You
understand.
lost
No,
the other lawsuit.
I'm just giving background. She owed me money. She kept on promising she was going to pay money. And then all of a sudden she was disappearing and she wasn't returning calls. And she wasn't returning calls. We had been in for 3 months on the phone every single day, once, twice, sometimes 3 times a day, many times.
I'm not interested in that. You went to her house at 8:30 in the morning.
No,
for what
first
purpose?
of all, it was 9:30 in the morning.
9:30.
Okay, there was.
For what purpose?
For what purpose? I went to give her a letter in her hand saying we dissolved the partnership between us. And that's what I went to deliver. Her daughter came to the door. She was dressed. The door was open. She said, who are you? And I said, I just came here to give your mother a piece of paper. She said, let me go back and find out. She came back and she said, my mother's in the shower. Can you come back in 30 minutes? There was a gentleman walking in the street that we exchanged pleasantries. That was the extent of it.
Can I see the police report, please?
Yes, ma'am.
As far as I can see, is simply retaliation. It's whatever she can do. Nothing to do with me.
I see the police were called, sir, on that day, on the 25th of August. So it's clearly not retaliatory because you evidently did not proceed in court until October. Your judgment wasn't until October, the judgment dismissing your suit. She made this complaint the very day of the incident.
Okay. First of all, her car has had many damages on it that she's never repaired. I can't testify as to what scratches and things she had on the car or why she did what she did.
This is a key mark, sir.
Okay, but it could have been there. I mean,
this is a key mark.
It was not there.
Here.
Okay.
Show him.
It was not there.
Okay, it's a key mark. You know, but that doesn't mean that I had anything to do with it. It could have been there. I could tell you that she had damages on her car that she's never repaired, and she's using it as an excuse. You know, if it was vandalism, as she claims, then in fact, from what I understand, it's a criminal act. Why didn't the police come, call me, do whatever they want, arrest me? There's no logic.
Your Honor.
Let's see. Just a second. You were given information on how to get a temporary restraining order against him. Did you do that?
No, I didn't because I left on a long cruise. And like the police department said, if you're gone, I went all the way up to Alaska and Canada. There was no sense in getting a restraining order. I was going to be gone.
For how long?
I was gone for 12 days.
Mm-hmm.
The cruise was before I even went there. The reason I know that is because one of her customers, I had spoken to her and called me. The cruise was before.
Yeah. What kind of business are you in, sir?
I'm in the ATM business. I sell ATM, cash dispensers, credit card processing, and so on. I was never an employee of hers. I was never a contract laborer of hers. I had my own company. She approached me to be a partner with her and hers.
All right. Just asked you, shh. Have you ever been arrested?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. When?
2 years ago.
For what?
it was considered insurance fraud at the time. Although it was my own property, it was my own property that was stolen, and it was a nonsense thing, but that's how it was.
And you were convicted?
Yes.
Is that your first arrest, sir?
No.
When's the arrest just prior to that?
That was a case that was dropped on an advertising program that was eventually dropped.
How long was your probation on the insurance fraud?
2 years.
When is your probation up?
Oh, it was up before I came to California.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
This is not a criminal case. Criminal case, the burden of proof is proof by beyond a reasonable doubt that an act was committed. The quantum of proof in a civil case, and this is a civil case, is more evidence than not, what we call a preponderance of the credible evidence that an event occurred. So I must make a determination based upon common sense and based upon what I've heard, whether I am satisfied by a preponderance of the credible evidence, that is more evidence than not, that you did in fact key her car. I'm satisfied. So you have the estimates for the damage?
Yes, and it's already been taken care of.
$1,241.25 is what you paid to have the car repainted on both sides. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,241. That's all.
Please excuse. You may step out.
Thank you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the